Hollywood Improv. Okay. All right. So let's get to what's happening. We've got a great show. We're going to be talking with Lee Camp coming up later because the RT has been a victim of the Red Scare happening, the modern day Red Scare, which comedians are going along with 100%, which is really depressing, when comedians repeat the CIA narrative instead of debunking it. It's the fucking most horrible thing I've ever seen. So it really is. There's nothing worse than that. If the court jester is repeating what the fucking monarchy is saying, what's the point of having a court jester? There is no point.
You're saying usually in the comedians and in the comedy community, you get the rebellious truths a lot of the time. Anyway.
Like comedians sniffed out the Iraq War bullshit. I don't know any comedians who believed in the fucking Iraq War. I don't know anybody who
Listen,
did.
Jimmy, I don't know about
besides
you.
Dennis Miller.
My understanding of like George Carlin is he really came to prominence because of his support for Nixon and how he talked about how the counterculture was wrong and these damned hippies.
Yeah.
That's what George Carlin, I mean, that's what made him great, is how he reinforced the establishment, right?
People don't understand what counterculture is. You're supposed to be counter to the culture. And because why? Because the culture is fucked upper. That's why. Okay, so we got to move on because we're going to talk with Lee Camp. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about the smearing of NSA former whistleblower from the NSA, William Binney. He's being called the conspiracy theorist. He's the smartest guy the NSA ever got. He invented metadata. He invented it. He's out in front of them. And now because he's telling the truth about the NSA, they're smearing him. And he's telling the truth about the Russian investigation. So they smear him. That's just the way it goes, baby. Look what they did to Donna Brazil after she told the truth. She fell victim of the Russians. That's what they said about her. Same thing they're saying about William Binney right now.
And he has an odd ally too, doesn't he?
Who's that?
The president, right?
Oh yes, he has the president and the CIA director now, Pompeo.
Yeah.
So we're gonna talk all about that. And if we have time, we'll get to other stuff, which I don't think we're gonna have time. So right now, what we're gonna talk about, we have a special guest coming up to talk about the people's new party for the people. So Nick Brana is going to be here, but right now, before we get to him, I have to put my earpiece in. A
little earpiece music, please.
I want to set it up because so as you know, the reason why Ralph Nader, when he ran, his dad said, "Ralph, do you really think America needs a third party?" And he said, "No, but I think it needs a second one." And it's been proven, right? Bill Clinton and Barack Obama did shit Republicans could only dream about doing, okay? And it hasn't stopped. It was the Democrats who cut the legs out from underneath unions. It was the Democrats who repealed the New Deal banking legislation that crashed our economy. It was the Democrats who exploded the prison population while gutting welfare. It was the Democrats who did that stuff. It was Barack Obama who made the banks bigger, who took 2 wars, expanded them to 7. It was Barack Obama whose cabinet was chosen by Citibank. We know that now because of WikiLeaks. It was Barack Obama who wanted to cut Social Security and Medicare. It was Barack Obama who has these fracking pipes going underneath the country, gas pipes everywhere. It was Barack Obama who did all that. So let's remember, we need a second party. We can't have 2 parties be pro-business. The reason why Nissan has 47 plants around the world and they're all union except for the 3 they have in the United States, it's because in the United States, both political parties represent management and no one represents the workers. So what happens? They scream about Russia, 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 which is a big distraction because they don't want to talk about stuff like this. Look what happened. Look at my computer. 60% of House Democrats vote for a defense budget even bigger than Trump's. That's from July of this year. They passed $80 billion extra in spending. Not one debate about it, not one Sunday news show, not one Anderson Cooper town hall, not one anybody, nothing. Nothing about it. They spent $80 billion, which could have paid for free college and bailed out everybody's student loan debt. Remember, we couldn't do that. John Oliver from another country told us we can't do that here. Turns out they can do it at the blink of an eye. They can do anything except if it helps you. Let's remember that. So that's why people want a third party. The Democrats went along with that. Elizabeth Warren went along with that. The best of the Democrats is the worst amongst us. Oh, go to my computer here. This just in, Republicans and Democrats on Senate Banking Committee reach agreement on proposals to ease banking regulations. That's from fucking yesterday.
And that's also in response to the Equifax scandal. they needed to respond to this somehow, and it's just like when we have gun violence in this country. The way they respond to it is ease gun. The same thing with banking regulations. They throw a couple of bones, and then they give the meat to the the gun lobby, or in this case, to Wall Street.
Here's David Sirota. As California Dems block a single, go to my computer, please. As California Dems block a single payer bill, the Virginia Socialists just defeated a top Republican by pushing for a state-based single payer program. This is Ralph Nader. The Democrats could not defend the country against the worst Republican Party in history, and the Republican Party could not defend the country against the worst Republican presidential candidate in history. What's next? Well, for what's next, let's talk to our friend Nick Brana. Is Nick there? I can't. Can you hear him in his?
Hey,
hey, Nick. There he is.
Jimmy,
how are you, buddy?
Thanks how's everyone?
Now, Nick, if you don't know Nick, I'm a big fan of his. He worked with Bernie Sanders' campaign, and after that, he decided to start the Draft Bernie campaign, which recognized the need for a third party. And now you have another phase in that, Nick. Now, let everybody know what's happening.
That's right. So we have turned Draft Bernie into the movement for a People's Party because we had such incredible success, like success that we couldn't have imagined when we started Draft Bernie. It inspired so many people. So many people contacted us and said, if this wasn't happening, I just wouldn't be engaged anymore. I would be depressed somewhere, kind of tuning the whole thing out. And so there were so many thousands of people that were so excited about this prospect. And we discovered that it was the most important part of our name was the People's Party name, and people really, of course, people want Bernie to come over, and that would be a great way to do it. But people are there for the People's Party, because they recognize that that's what we need at this point. And so we decided that we wanted to continue, and we wanted to build this movement for a People's Party by bringing together organizations on the left, unions, student groups, and all kinds of organizations that should be a part of founding a new party. Because it's an overwhelming majority now of Americans, almost 2/3, who are saying that we need a new party in this country. It's a record high.
Yeah, so it's not like you're some kind of outlier and crazy. The majority of the country agrees with you. The people who are registered Democrats is somewhere around 26-27% of the country. Same thing with Republicans. So yeah, again, more people are independents. And so your idea is that you're going to create an umbrella organization based on policies. Right, so again, so the Democratic Socialists of America or the Socialist Alternative or the Green Party or Our Revolution, they don't have to abandon their own organizations. They can all stay inside their own groups, but you're gonna create a platform that we can all agree on that we were gonna use to hold politicians' feet to the fire with kind of a litmus test. Is that what you're saying?
That, and it's that we should all participate in building an alternative. We can all agree on the platform. That's it's a great advantage. But we need to recognize that the best platform in the world isn't going to get anywhere without this strategy to implement it. And so for all of these organizations that are out there that want the same thing, and that large majority, that kind of like comic majority of Americans now, overwhelming majority that are calling for a new party, is let's bring those people together. Let's bring those organizations together, those unions, which are taking big interest, like we talked about recently, and you talked about, Jimmy, on your show. And so there's a lot of people taking interest. What we need now is we need to bring all of these folks together so that we can actually create a vehicle in a united way.
And so that's your mission right now, to bring, you're right, I forgot to mention that the AFL-CIO and the teachers union and other unions came together and had a convention, and they talked about a third party, that they want to start up a Labor Party. Finally, they've realized that the Democratic Party has never done anything for them and never is going to do anything for them. So they're talking about a third party. And so your mission is to get all these people working together. And how is that going?
Yes. So it's going well. Everywhere that we speak to, we have from our Draft Bernie phase, we have a field organization in 47 states. And so, we decided to do something that was novel, that kind of hadn't been done before. I mean, the traditional role for a volunteer on a campaign or in kind of a social movement is, canvassing, volunteer, or phone banking and that kind of thing, collecting petition signatures. But we said, let's actually empower these folks who were doing that with us previously as Draft Bernie and make them, emissaries of Movement for a People's Party in approaching different organizations locally, community groups, local unions, local chapters of Our Revolution DSA and other progressive groups, and speak to them about this idea, of starting a new party and build it in that way across the country. And it's been really great the way that people have responded to that, both our volunteers and on the level of the organizations that we're approaching. So it really is kind of this grassroots upwelling of approaching groups all across the country and talking to them about this.
Yeah. So the big problem I see is that Bernie, it seems like you're moving on without Bernie, right? It seems like Bernie's gonna, for whatever reason, use all his power, even though he spent 30 years as an independent and complained about how horrible the two-party system is and how they don't respond to people. And for some reason, now that he has a chance to actually do something to smash that two-party duopoly, he's using all his power to sheep herd progressives into the Democratic Party. And it couldn't be any clearer the Democratic Party doesn't want a goddamn thing to do with them. Tom Perez just kicked every progressive off his freaking committee, off the Rules Committee, and so so you're moving on without Bernie, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, we hope, the invitation to Bernie always stays open. We hope that, he'll come and join us, he'll come to his senses about this. And because our view is that it's time to stop fighting this kind of progressive populist current outside of the party. There's this current that is moving, and not even Bernie and Trump have been able to reverse it. Because I spoke to Karen Bernal, had a kind of a discussion with her. She's the chair of the California Democratic Progressive Caucus this Monday. She was an author of the autopsy report with Norman Solomon and others, and they acknowledge that the Democratic, not even Bernie and Trump, Bernie, most popular politician in the country, Trump, the least popular, constantly attacking working people. These are two immense forces which should be bringing people in droves to the Democratic Party. And instead of seeing that, we see a continuation of the historical trends for the past 15 years, and that's people actually leaving the Democratic Party in the millions. And so you think, wow, if even they can't reverse that, we're really on trajectory here towards a great political realignment. And as progressives, we should embrace that because it's in our direction. We shouldn't fight it.
You have a question?
Yeah, Nick, this is Malcolm Fleshner, and I wanted to know what, if anything, you've thought about in regards to one of the criticisms of the left is our tendency to splinter over factional issues, and that leftists tend to want to be independent of one another and think for ourselves, whereas Republicans, it's much easier to get them to vote as a bloc and to give up a lot of what they believe in necessarily for the good of the party. And I wonder if you have anything built in, or if part of what you've baked into the organization is a way to avoid that, if possible, in the future.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely true, and anyone who embarks on coalition building on the left immediately encounters that. Is that it's one of our greatest strengths, kind of our diversity of thought and our independence of thought, but it also produces what you said, which is this tendency for groups to kind of factionalize at the slightest kind of change, or the slightest differences. Rather than working together on an overwhelmingly similar kind of goals. And so what we have, that's why often it takes a new player, I think, to come in and to kind of cut through a lot of the calcified kind of acrimony or silos on the left, and tell people, what, there's an incredible opening and the American people are counting on us. And it's incumbent upon us to really go out there and to set those really relatively minuscule differences aside and work together.
Nick, this is Mark Thompson. It's Malcolm makes a great point about the solidarity that we sort of strive for in the progressive movement, and you've kind of addressed that. I still sort of worry about it, frankly, but on a sort of meta scale, tell me, when you look at the system overall, and it just seems so gamed, you know, tell me the long plan for bringing this movement together and making it a viable third-party option.
Right. So the idea is that as an aggregate, we have the strength to do this, you know, and we have the support to do this. The great majority of Americans, you know, 60+% who support us on all the issues, single payer, you know, free public college, getting money out of politics, reducing inequality, all of those things. So we got the support in terms of the issues, as Bernie very well showed. Got the support also in terms of the people who want a major third party. And so the idea, but there's no organization out there as it currently exists that has the ability to do this on its own. In the aggregate, we know we have the numbers, we have the support, you know, and we have the institutional resources, and we saw what Bernie Sanders is capable. You know, we saw what a clean money campaign is capable of doing that runs on that revolutionary progressive message. And so if we can create that vehicle in a united way, then I think that by bringing those organizations and those resources together, then we can create what doesn't currently exist in the independent progressive movement. And that's a decisive center of gravity, which people say, yes, that's where the action is. That's where the momentum is. And if Bernie had stepped into the arena to create a new party, and if he does in the future, that's exactly what would exist. You know, there would be this automatic center of gravity, and everybody would say, okay, that's what we're doing now.
So you're saying with that center of gravity comes changes in the debate structure, let's say at top ticket type issues, and changes in just boilerplate ways in which elections are conducted, such that the progressive movement is recognized in a way it's not right now.
Right. So a lot of those barriers will remain, but what will change, of course, is that we'll have the institutional strength to highlight that in a way that we can't now, and to challenge that in a way that we can't now.
Well, where can people go? All right, so what is your prognosis, Nick? Do you think that you'll have these people together and working on the same, you know, trying to push the same political agenda by 2018, or is this a 4-year project?
I think this is probably looking towards 2020 as something that's kind of the most realistic, you know, knowing how long it takes to work with organizations, how long it takes to bring them on board, and to build to this kind of critical mass. You know, that's probably the most realistic. I do want to bring something up too, Jimmy, which I haven't heard anyone else say. And I think it's such an important point in this. And that's that it's so important that we break out of the Democratic Party and stop playing by their rules. Because as long as we play inside the rules, it's not like playing, you know, this isn't like playing a traditional game. It's not like playing chess or softball. This is a game where the rules actively, you know, and I saw this when I was on the Bernie campaign lobbying the superdelegates. The rules are changed. They morph. They have no solid shape. They take whatever shape is required to prevent us from winning. And so, for example, what nobody has talked about is that with a slight rules change, the Democrats could invalidate a potential Bernie 2020 candidacy. All they have to do is the DNC or the Rules Committee has to say, you have to be a Democrat in good standing to run. And guess what? Good standing means you have to have helped us build our party for the past 4 years and been a Democrat for the past 4 years. And oh, Bernie, you're an independent. Turns out you can't win. And it's over before it started. So as long as you're working inside the Democratic Party, you're building sandcastles.
I agree with you. Nick Brana, thank you so much for taking time. We'll put a link on now. Do you have a website people can go to if they want more information?
Yes, it's forapeoplesparty.org.
forapeoplesparty.org. We'll put a link underneath. Thanks for taking time. We're up against a break. Nick, we'll have you on again when you have some more successes to talk about. And we'll be right back. You know, this is the ending the free part of the show. So if you go to tytnetwork.com/join, you become a member. You can see the rest of the show. We have another 90 minutes or so coming up. We have Lee Camp is going to come on and talk about RT and a lot more. We'll be right back. Oh, I have to read this. Hey everyone, don't miss the 10 days of Black Friday at shoptyt.com. It comes from Wednesday the 15th through Friday the 24th. Members have access to a special surprise item on Tuesday the 21st. To find out what it is, go to tytnetwork.com. Communications on the first. Be right back.
you know, sometimes I'm a salty bitch.
All right, all right, all right.
Come on.
Welcome back to the Aggressive Progressives. We're having a giggly good time, right? Because it's fucking vindication. We have been vindicated. All right, I feel great about it. I feel great about it. We were right, of course. The Washington Post, MSNBC, CNN, and New York Times were wrong. And we were right about everything. Okay. And that's where we're back. We're back to, that's our jumping off point again. We're back to where Jimmy Dore is right about everything. That's the good place to be.
Yeah, but I mean, the problem is your career is probably going to tank now. Look what happened to Hans Blix and Scott Ritter and all these people who were right about Iraqi WMDs, and then we went to war and you never hear from them again.
Oh, look how Chris Hedges' career is skyrocketed.
Hans Blix is being called into every potential hotspot for chemical weapons because he got it right the first time. So that's why you hear Hans Blix's name all the time.
And that's why. So that's. But this is a great point, Malcolm. Actually, that you just made jokingly.
Yeah.
Is that you think they would want these guys who were right about the Iraq war. They would want Phil Donahue. You'd want Chris Hedges. You'd want Hans Blix. You'd want all these guys now to be talking about the Russia is taking over our